Good morning everyone, and today we're checking out a brand new video from TrueGreen7 of him designing an entire Pokemon region in 1 hour. Now you may be thinking, hey, the runtime of this video isn't 1 hour. What is that? That's because the original video is barely under 17 minutes. And so of course it's probably going to be clips, quick grabs, all that kind of stuff. So let's hop in and see just what he's able to do with 1 hour.
Hey guys, Ron here, and after a ton of fan
What up,
suggestions,
Ron?
I decided to take a crack at the challenge Pen Paladin introduced to YouTube, where he designed an entire region in 1 hour. I'm gonna settle on 111 Pokemon for this fictitious region, which gives me just over 30 seconds per Pokemon. But I'll be
wow.
transparent with you. While the bulk of each design took around 30 to 60 seconds from the moment I began my first stroke of each Fakemon, I did give myself an additional 30 seconds for many designs to make minor tweaks like erasing overlapping lines and adding tiny patterns. I thought it was in your best interest if I added those extra seconds, or else some designs would be too scribbled to understand or would simply be way less entertaining. So in reality, this took 2 hours. I even added color after the fact, so you can take a further glimpse into these concepts. Now of course I did have a brainstorming session before designing this region, especially since I had to come up with the existing categories that a region fills, like starters, Pikachu clones, and legendaries. Regardless, I hope you find these designs, all of which were made in around a minute,
The false route ball, the classic ball,
to be rather impressive for the restraint I was under. Expect them to all be bad so that you're surprised by the ones I legitimately am proud of. I decided to not fully render any of them so that I may redesign them properly in future videos. Only you guys who watch this video will know that a ton of the Fakemon I make today will basically be beta forms for Pokemon I make throughout the following year or two. But before we begin, I want to once again talk about today's sponsor, Raycon. Many months ago, Raycon approached me saying, "Ron, we love your content, let us sponsor your video." And I said, sure. So I did a whole promotion for them, telling the world how Raycon's everyday earbuds offer the same audio capabilities as the bigger name brand companies at half the price. Raycon loved the ad so much, they came back into my house and asked for another. So I made a second amazing ad, after which they stuck into my home once again, requesting another ad. I threw in a Fakemon based on their awesome earbuds, which blew their mind, causing them to break into my house again, demanding an evolved form. So I made one of my favorite Fakemon ever, only for them to calmly and politely ask for another ad. So I'm here to showcase the everyday earbuds active noise cancellation and multi-point connectivity. They have a bunch of new vibrant colors with beautiful cases. And not only do they look great, but they support wireless charging, so I don't even have to take the protective cover off to get 90 minutes of battery in just 10 minutes of charging using their quick charge function. They also have 3 customizable sound profiles, touch features, and a complimentary set of different sized ear gels. Because whenever I leave my room, my favorite hobby is going on a walk while listening to Pokemon music. And with these features, the everyday earbuds were literally made for that. So if you guys watching want to finally get a hold of some earbuds at half the usual price of other brands you know, while still boasting more features than those other earbuds, click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/truegreen7 to start your year off right and get 15% off your Raycon purchase site-wide for their New Year's sale. That's anything you want off their website. And with their 30-day happiness guarantee, there's absolutely no reason to not try at least one Raycon product out. Let's begin with the starters. Grass Bear is basically what I want to do when I make a legit new region in the future. I think the actual starter came out great. The middle stage was larger than I wanted it to be, but I literally don't have the time to redo any proportions for these Pokemon. So the final Evo doesn't have the amount of detail an actual final starter would have, but I think now you understand the nature of this challenge. Fire Horse makes sense. It's tough making sure it doesn't look like a Ponyta, so I went with more cartoony shapes. Although to be fair, every Pokemon here will be made of basic shapes. I knew I wanted to make it more horse-like as it evolves, so that it's not literally a Ponyta. I gave it Valkyrie head wings, so that when it evolves, it becomes a full-on Alicorn. Its wings are actually just fire in the shape of wings. It doesn't actually fly. Definitely the closest to a legit Pokemon so far. I made this ice.
So that means it's pulling a buzz. It's not flying, it's falling with style.
Isopod water bug starter. I thought it needed some kind of concept other than being a literal isopod, so this nose and eventual armor made it fairly unique. Until as I was drawing the final evolution, I realized that Golisopod exists and is a fairly armored isopod Pokemon, so I decided that the final evolution would be way more jolly looking, so that it, at least personality-wise, isn't a Golisopod. But in the end, it's more of a vague water crustacean, really. Sometimes in this challenge, I'm too worried about finishing the drawing in 30 seconds that I have no time to make it look like anything other than just a real-world animal. So this family of raccoons look very much like just raccoons, but at least as they evolved, they become a bit suave and fashionable. I mean, I was very proud of this pose and personality I was able to give it in literally half a minute. That's why this final raccoon is my favorite so far. Not a bad regional normal type. For our regional bird, I thought a dove with an olive branch motif made total sense. I've done it before, but finally got to evolve it into a grass flying type olive branch rainbow dove that I've dreamt of as a kid. Not bad for less than a minute. The regional bug is going to be this little silk bug that can go either way. It has a split evolution. The first is this angel moth, and I bet you can figure out what the other moth will look like. It's another concept I've done in the past, but you gotta turn to instinctual ideas when doing these type of speed challenges. The regional dark type is gonna be this crooked monkey. It starts out as this fun thug, but evolves into a monkey criminal. Soon you'll notice that the entire region has a stripe motif, since stripes are the fastest kind of pattern I can add. A little fighting spider that could totally fit in Generation 3 evolves into this Muay Thai spider. It makes total sense and would totally be a...
Now that's actually a fighting style we haven't seen in a long time. Muay Thai. A lot of people don't even know about it because of its main origin. And I don't know too much about it myself to explain it, so I'm not going to try that and make myself look like a fool. I'm sorry.
A Pokemon I revisit. One of the best poses today.
Still like
and
it.
One I admittedly spent an extra minute revising to nail the idea. My new favorite of the bunch. The Pikachu clone is a meerkat. It's an easy body plan to quickly render, and a long Pikachu clone is definitely one we need. This was based on the wasps that have those funny thin abdomens, and I was gonna make it even longer and have it skip rope with its stinger, but that was too hard to configure in such a short time, so in the end it became a spring. This Ghost Rock family though came out better than I expected. It's this sad tombstone that becomes this cool obelisk with neat patterns.
It's happy.
And because of the time saved rendering these easy mons, I had enough time to design their mausoleum final evolution. Honestly, one of the best object mon I've ever made. The first perfect family in this challenge. Then I made this ground type family based on the Damascus goat. In real life, they start out extremely cute and become the most grotesque looking goats as adults.
Yeah, don't actually look it up. I've seen what it is, and yeah, the baby is really cute, but by the time it's an adult, it looks like someone took one of those like really wrinkly dogs and turned that into a goat.
For some reason, they are super prized. I never understood it, but they make for a great Pokemon and make sense as this bulky ground type. Definitely revisiting this family in the future. I made this little fire fairy based on brownies. A pretty complete design in just 30 seconds. Then I finally made this ice type moose I've always wanted to make. Gotta start out as a baby moose before giving it these giant icicle antlers. If I had more time and room on the canvas, I'd make this moose a bit bulkier. Okay, now these are out there. It didn't have enough time to execute.
Steel?
They're like rusted birds that can't fly. They're steel and poison type because of like tetanus. An example of something I'll revisit because the concept is great, but the design needs to be executed better. Maybe a version exclusive counterpart is these fairy poison types based on pollen. Just these pollen fairies that blow harmful dust. Kind of like how the birds look like they'd be flying types, these fairies look like they'd be bug types upon fully evolving. But nature is freaky. I actually really like how the final fairy type turned out.
Pretty good.
Now it's time for the obligatory feminine psychic type. So I started with a dancing flame. It becomes this psychic type dancer that eventually becomes this belly dancer. This line was so well executed that I thought it would be a waste to not give an extra minute or two to fully correct the final evolution's pose so that the silhouette worked better and that you could understand what you were looking at. It's definitely a bit too humanoid. So if I ever came back to this line, I'd spend time making it look more like a Pokemon. This bush mutt did end up looking like a Griever, but those shapes really did feel natural to quickly doodle in 30 seconds. The bush poodle it becomes makes so much sense, and I'm surprised it doesn't already exist. So many fans have made such a design. Then the following line is based on some ghosts slowly materializing as they apparate, as if this ghost type's body is slowly appearing from another dimension. But as I finished the second ghost, I realized how terrible it looked. So I basically focused my attention at making the final evolution at least look super cool, instead of being a logical final.
You accidentally pulled a ghastly Gengar line. Whoops.
Step. On its own, it's pretty sick, but it comes out of nowhere. These huge monstrous Pokemon do have the vibe of early Pokemon, whose sprites had to be contained within a small box, and couldn't be too long. Then I thought I'd design a more traditional looking Pokemon. This cute magnet crab works wonders, and the Evo looks exactly like how a Gen 1 Evo would look like for its Prevo. A very solid Pokemon in my opinion.
Look at that.
But now we're coming upon my favorite line, and an example of a fake pseudo-legendary like Haxorus. It starts out as a dragon with a flag tail. When it evolves, the flag becomes a crest on the back of its middle Evo, who starts acquiring knight attributes before becoming a superhero knight with a cape. This is very much a concept Pokemon would do, and I'm very super proud of I'm super proud of myself
Hey,
for
it's all right.
legitimately drawing this entire line in 2 minutes. I never thought I could do it. We're on a roll. This ghost bat
Yeah,
that
it's
emits a
good.
ghostly wail is also a fine Pokemon, and I love the colors I settled on after the fact. Ghosts and bats are very thematic, so it's crazy how we haven't had such a smooth combo in Pokemon. Okay, never mind, Lunala exists, but I meant more of like a cliche ghost. Not just a ghost type. Maybe these bats are version exclusive with these rock type wizards. After all,
Oh,
ghost
maybe.
flying and rock psychic are perfect counterparts. I love this duo. A little crystal ball that becomes a wizard makes so much sense. I'd love to revisit it, but honestly, these designs are rather final. Some of the most
It's a lawn gnome!
complete mon in the video, since a circle and some triangles are pretty easy to do in under a minute.
Oh,
Next is
and
this
a
line of
frog.
marine iguanas. The first one has the proportions of a Pokemon, sure, but the concept
Oh,
isn't
iguana,
anything
my
other than
mistake.
a literal marine iguana. The middle stage is even more egregious. It's literally just an iguana, but at least it acquires the barnacle-like vents on its back that will introduce the concept of its final evo. But yeah, I only had enough time to simply draw a marine iguana, but the final evolution reveals that we've been leading up to a water-fire
Nice.
type with volcanic vents on its back. It's very Gen 3 if you ask me, and
This final form would definitely be called like the seafloor Pokemon.
I know we've gone heavy on the 3-stage lines, but this is the last one for a while. Pretty awesome final evolution though. Wombats are known for being quite caked up, so I had its big butt caked in so much mud that its evo has a giant hardened clay bottom that looks like an entire planet. A bit more time and this could have totally been a
Fun fact about wombats that I'm not sure a lot of people know of, the way it kills its predator is by slamming its butt onto their head. It literally talks to death, talks its enemies to death. And the reason why it does that is because the backside, it's weirdly very thick. And I'm not saying that with C's, I'm saying that with a C and a K. You know, regular ick. I don't know why it's just so big.
Pokemon. Next, I made an electric type Trilobite. The patterns on its hat light up. Kind of looks like a 18th century hat, so I combined it with what was at the time
Ooh.
newly harnessed electricity. Another design that is pretty much complete. Very likable already. Next was a half-baked idea. An elastic snake that stretches like a rubber band. Then a kendo-inspired bamboo Pokemon. Weirdly, Bonnie John had the exact same idea in the most recent 4 Artists episode, but I had this idea written down for this video weeks before we recorded that
yeah,
episode.
I remember
Then
that
I
now.
combined a squid with Christmas lights. The evolved form is an entire octopus with tentacles that look like string lights. The concept is great, but there's no time to properly execute it. Now it's time for the fossils. Both of my fossil lines have an arts and crafts theme. So first we have a baby Dimetrodon with light up scales, and then when it evolves,
Like
the scales on its
Light-Brights.
crest almost work like an LED screen and can make vague images. Like right now it's a tree during the sunset. Then these grass types based
Wow.
on the Wageltosaurus? What? I don't know how to pronounce that. But it's combined with paper mache
Oh, no, I
and
know what
collage
this is.
themes. Definitely
It's one of those wheel dinosaurs that extended its rib cage outward and used the excess skin to glide around.
didn't have time to flesh out a collage Pokemon.
Yes, that's real.
Next was a combo of a Cyclops with a camera and a bit of an Oni. At first I was skeptical, but it kind of worked out once colored. I even
Yeah,
believed in
it
it so
does.
much that it's the only one I shaded, just to illustrate the point. This feathered pen bird is a good first draft too. A ton of these look like beta forms that Game Freak made in the first few generations, and I'm not going to beat myself up over my 30-second drawings looking like beta forms. On the other hand, this ice
Bound to
poison line
happen.
looks fairly complete. The idea of this drunk little ice wine glass filled with toxins that it never spills, despite moving unpredictably, is totally viable. And then this tipsy wine bottle is a very believable evolution. Another pretty dope object mon that makes sense. By now you'll notice how I really want a pixel Pokemon, so I made a Pixel Pixie with light up wings. Its evolution
Pixel
is pretty
Pixie.
bratty, to contrast with the following version exclusives, this demon line that is sad, shy, and surprisingly polite. The Evo is one of the most final looking
Aw.
mon in this video. I love it. Perfect proportions for a demon Pokemon in my opinion. Then I was tired of cooking, so I made this basic rubber ducky. I mean, it's basically Psyduck and Ducklet in one Pokemon. It even evolves into a blue duck swan hybrid, combined with an inner tube. I finally made another Fabergé egg lizard. This time, it's a haughty prince, but the Evo stays egotistical. But it's also super intelligent and makes good decisions. This may be my
Nice.
favorite one of the bunch.
Okay.
It's incredibly complete. I don't need to redesign it. It took about 2 minutes to make, sure, but honestly, this 2-minute design looks better than some of my 1-hour designs. Why am I even wasting my time designing most of my Fakemon in an hour when I can just do it in 2 minutes? Then I made this version exclusive duo, a dark type moon rabbit that looks sneaky and cat-like, and a
then a
sun-themed
sun
bear.
bear.
It's a combination of a sun bear and a water bear, or tardigrade, but making a fire type
Oh,
tardigrade
nice.
for once feels good. I love its 6 legs and how its rotundness contrasts with the slender rabbit. Then I made this rock type Glyptodont. It had no aura whatsoever until I colored it in. Now it looks like a proper Betamon. Then I designed this Jujutsu Vine. It's constantly anxious, but is super good at dodging and grappling.
Oh.
Totally want to revisit it.
Oh, now I
Same with
see
this
it.
Prometheus Pokemon, combined with an Olympic torch. I have a great thing going on here, but no time to fully experiment. Unlike this Wabgong shark Fakemon I made, I had zero
sorry,
concept
what?
for it. The only idea I had was that it's a gentleman, which is the opposite of the usual shark trope, I guess, but I had no idea for the actual designs. Same with this Flatworm. I made it look like a crumpled, dry leaf, but like, it's not an exciting Pokemon or anything. I thought this Olm Pokemon was going to be our third dud in a row, but honestly, I think it would be very popular if fully fleshed out. Next was
Yeah,
this
that's
line
not
of
too
Emperor
bad.
Penguins. It starts out as a sad peasant penguin, then the middle stage is this ambitious bourgeois Pokemon, before finally becoming a content emperor. Now this emperor is way more silly than Empoleon, and is the rival of that lizard egg I made a few minutes ago. I thought two bickering kings would be
Nice.
funny and make sense in the same region, especially since they're coincidentally super effective against each other. Next is this line of dugongs
yeah.
that live in the desert instead of the ocean. They eat the dirt, so the final Evo has this long snout. Very simple, but it honestly works as a Gen 2 Pokemon.
Yes, it
Next,
does.
I'm revisiting a Fakemon I made a while back, these ice poison birds that inject toxins. The Evo has some crazy colors for an ice type, but that's what's fun about it.
Like a
It also
blue
juxtaposes its serious personality. Then we have my least favorite line, since it literally has no concept whatsoever. I just love 3-stage steel types, but couldn't think of a concept in time, and I assumed I would while designing. I just focused on making the final Evo the best in the family. It's supposed to be a very strong late game Pokemon. But now it's time for the Legendary Trio, all based on false gods, or basically gods in the ancient Middle East. So they're dark
Awesome.
types. You have this gluttonous bug based on Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies. A wrathful bull Pokemon based on Baal, basically the biggest rival to the Hebrew god in the Bible. And then a lustful grass-type tree Pokemon based on Asherah, which was once worshipped as the wife of the Hebrew god, before becoming a false god in the Bible. This trio is really way
Not
more
bad.
deep than they need to be, and I don't really have the time to describe all the origins and intricacies. I'm very much going to repurpose them for a later date and make an actual legendary trio based on this concept. Then I made
Yes,
this
you
legendary
should.
duo based on Sherlock Holmes and Watson. They solve mysteries,
yes.
but honestly, I know I had no time to give them the amount of attention a real legendary would get, so I barely tried. It would never work with only about a minute to design them. Now we finally have the region's pseudo-legendaries.
Here
A
we
dragon
go.
normal type that is a combo of a dragon and a dog. It becomes more vicious as it evolves, and the final Evo very much looks like it was designed in an early generation based on how compact it looks. It looks like, again, it was designed to be in a box. But in the end,
Yeah,
it very
does.
much looks like a dragon dog, so I'm alright with that. Now it's time for the box art legendaries. Once again, their inspirations are
Here
too
we go.
deep for a design I drew in a minute. They're based on the Japanese creation gods Izanagi and Izanami, combined with Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu, with a bit of
Oh,
Fujin
that's
and Raijin.
good.
So they're basically a culmination of so many gods in two Pokemon. One with a spear, and one whose hair looks like a bow that shoots lightning arrows. Their trio master is a fire fortress
does.
whose type overpowers both of the box art legendaries. I think I did a fine job making Pokemon that look more powerful and legendary than the rest of the decks in just a few minutes. Finally, we have
indeed.
3 mythicals that act as sidekicks to the legendary trio. We have this ancient snake bug looking creature that aids the trio master. I love how it turned out. Then this quick Cupid-like Pokemon that follows the lightning bow and arrow lady. And then this Chimera Shark mythical that serves the spear-holding legendary Pokemon. I would love to
Okay.
properly design this mythical trio, and honestly, at least 50%
I would actually love for him to flesh out this whole region, because it'd be
of
fun.
this dex. It was a satisfying exercise, and I hope that when you see me redesign some of these mons at later dates, you'll be happy to have been one of the few who viewed the original video where these beta forms were designed. If you
100%.
enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe to see all the other Fakemon videos I have in store for this year. Make sure to check
Alright everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Until then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.